Well, hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to my YouTube channel here on August the 6th, 2019. I just had to squeeze in a little bit of dinner here. I was very, very hungry tonight. We have, I think, a pretty interesting day coming up for tomorrow with respect to severe weather. We're talking the last couple of days about the fact that the Storm Prediction Center is likely going to upgrade their risk area. So this morning, from the overnight forecast, they expanded the area of marginal risk, and then this afternoon, they did even say it in their discussion, that they were going to probably expand it to a slight risk of severe weather, which is exactly what they did. And I think we may see a bit more of an adjustment coming later on overnight and tomorrow when we see the first round of forecasts from SPC during tomorrow morning. So it looks like I think we're going to have a busy severe weather day. I am going to check because I see, Lewis, you mentioned that there's some kind of warning that just went up. So I hopefully won't have to stop the live stream. So let's see what we got. And there's a very, very small flash flood warning that I see up in parts of northeastern Pennsylvania, but that's it. There's actually a couple of good cells that are moving right along. This is for southwestern Monroe County in northeastern PA. There are still some pop-up storms that we're dealing with this evening, and we're going to take a look at some of those. The wide radar view, for some reason, went down this afternoon, and it remains down. I'm sorry, folks. I literally had to wolf down a sandwich really, really quick. So it's coming back to haunt me at this moment. All right, let's take a look at the Storm Prediction Center's risk area for tonight. And here we go. So we've got a marginal risk of severe weather from western New York and western Pennsylvania. Now, this is the cold front that's going to be moving eastward. There's a slight risk down in southern Indiana into southern Illinois, and we have a watch box up in southern Illinois and parts of western Kentucky, severe thunderstorm watch. And then up in the plains through Nebraska and on up through South Dakota, we have a slight, and into North Dakota, we have a slight to enhanced risk with a working severe thunderstorm watch on the northern part of that area. There are some pop-up storms, of course, ahead of this area in the east, and there's some scattered pop-ups, but not a whole lot of activity going on in the southeast. Sort of a busy day in Florida with showers and storms running around again, scattered pop-ups through the Mississippi Valley. You got a little area here where no thunderstorms are forecast today, and then you've got some stuff down in the southwest. This is a pretty busy setup with respect to this jet stream, very active here, the southern end of that jet stream coming out of Canada. And we actually have several short waves that are moving through, and you can see them very clearly on the satellite loop. There's one that is actually part of the system, the frontal boundary that's off the east coast, and we saw a wave develop on that front and actually grazed my house this morning and early this afternoon with some rain. So that's moving to the northeast. You've got this second trough that is swinging through the Great Lakes now and into western New York, and this is going to be the potential severe weather maker for tomorrow. I'm actually pretty impressed with the dynamics, at least the way the NAM is visualizing it. And then there's a third short wave, and you can see those clouds coming into the northern plains. So all of this just kind of rolling right along with that jet just hanging there along the Canadian border, actually pushing now much further to the south than it otherwise would be. And you're going to get these strong shortwave troughs to swing on through. And on a day like Wednesday coming up, where you're going to have ample daytime heating, the atmosphere is certainly getting itself ready for the possibility of some severe weather. And you can tell that by just looking at the observations and watching, the dew points all increasing and the temperature is also eventually increasing. I think the big key for tomorrow, folks, is really going to be the daytime heating. How much daytime heating are we going to see with regards to thunderstorm development? Now, here's, let me just back up. We'll put up the radar. And we've been getting these pop-ups and clusters of storms, and you see them here. They're also having problems with the loop, so it's probably just best if I use a still shot. There you go. So this is the radar as of 7:08. I don't see any severe weather warnings other than that one flash flood warning that I told you about. But you've got this cluster of storms north of Allentown and coming into parts of northwest Jersey. You've got some stronger storms up the Hudson Valley, up 87 toward Poughkeepsie and near Middletown, seeing some strong storms there. Some scattered cells back out through the rest of eastern Pennsylvania. You got a little cluster down there in northern parts of Chesapeake Bay. Let's go to the Dover radar, and there's that area extends actually to about Baltimore and west and south of there to just west of the Washington, D.C. area. Central PA. We can take a look at State College's radar. Actually, this is Pittsburgh's, I believe, PBZ. Yes, it is. And it is busy. Now, the storms in northwestern PA and in northern Ohio, now that's all part of the risk that is occurring, the marginal risk that is occurring back in that area. Now, here's how it looks from central PA, where you've got some storms, a little bit of a northeast-southwest broken line running up from around State College, and then north and east to about Williamsport. Then you've got some other storms from Du Bois northeastward toward the New York State line, and then turns eastward from there, heading toward Binghamton. So it's pretty busy on the radars, relatively busy on the radars in the Northeast. This is Upton's view. Not too much happening. You can see the back edge of the rain that moved through southern New England and over Long Island and kind of touched coastal New Jersey briefly earlier today. There's very little of that rain area left. Now, here's the Storm Prediction Center's risk area for Wednesday, and the marginal risk from earlier today remains the same up into Vermont, New Hampshire, and a good chunk of upstate New York. Covers at least half of Pennsylvania, if not 2/3 of it, down through all of just about all of Maryland, just about all of Virginia, just about all of North Carolina, and then of course you've got southern and southeastern New England in the marginal risk. The slight risk has been added today, and that's running from about Route 78 in New Jersey southward, eastern and southeastern Pennsylvania. So it takes 78 around Allentown from there south. Also, all of Maryland, all of central and eastern Maryland, Delaware, down and through the eastern part of Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. We also have a slight risk for northeastern Ohio, and then on up through Wisconsin and into parts of the Upper Peninsula, or what we call the UP of Michigan. And by the way, just for day 3. Which takes us to, I believe this is Thursday into Friday morning, with that second cold front, because remember there are two cold fronts here. There's a slight risk of severe weather indicated for western PA, Ohio, and into eastern Indiana. Everybody else in just sort of a general area of thunderstorms. Right now, what we're seeing on the radar, and I pulled it on this particular view, we are beginning to see the dew points climb up. You can see some 70 dew points starting to show up across parts of southern New England. Most places are still showing dew points in the mid to a few upper 60s, but you're definitely starting to see some 70-degree dew points get in there, and I think they're going to be quite common for tomorrow. And those dew points are going to get saturated pretty far up into upstate New York and New England. You're seeing a peppering of some severe thunderstorm and flash flood warnings on this radar view, and some scattered cells as occurring across Maryland, and then you've got the heavier action back up into parts of Ohio and in western New York. And I want to take a look at the next system, see how much is on the radar at the moment, because we're not really seeing all that much yet with the severe weather risk that we have for today. Hang on, let me just go back 1 second here, folks. I just need to remind myself. Oh boy. Day 2, day 1. Okay, so the area back through the plains. I didn't go far enough back through the plains here. Not yet. Really not seeing too much in terms of thunderstorm development yet back into the Dakotas and down into Nebraska. So that will probably come later this evening and tonight. You're starting to see some cells over there in parts of the central Rockies. So here's the eastern satellite view, and I always thought this was pretty interesting tonight because if you look at the visible, you can actually see the cloud tops blowing up with these pop-up thunderstorms that are over my area and blowing away to the east. You could also see the back edge of that wave that is off the coast of southeastern New England and running away to the northeast. And now our weather front for tomorrow. So again, the big key for tomorrow is you see where there's not a whole lot of cloudiness. There are pop-ups, but there's not a whole lot of cloudiness throughout much of southern Pennsylvania, down through New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland. How much of that is going to push up into southern New England so that we can get some solid daytime heating or not? If we get the solid daytime heating, you're going to know it because we'll be pushing temperatures up well into the 80s to near 90. That might be enough to set off some, another little extra juice to the upper air trough that is swinging through. And I want to show you, at least from the NAM standpoint here, this is actually a fairly impressive shortwave that is coming along. Now, take a look at this upper air, and you're going to see, you've got a couple of different short waves in play. You've got this short wave that's off the coast of Long Island out in the ocean. But take a look at the area that is approaching Lake Erie. And as I rotate this through, you can actually see the turning going on. So this is the shortwave trough that is spinning away into the northeast for Wednesday. And when we get into Wednesday afternoon and evening, what really interests me is the fact that you get these jet streaks that show up in New Jersey, over Connecticut, eastern Pennsylvania. Now look, they could be there or they could be in other spots, but just the fact that they show these jet streaks to me is indicative that we're going to see some severe weather here. I think you're likely to see some thunderstorms that could produce some strong gusty winds. Some of these winds are going to mix down. You're probably going to see some downdrafts, and I suppose if we really wind up with an intense cell and rotation of occurring is not out of the question. But again, watch the looping. Watch how that area of energy, that vorticity, just kind of spins away to the northeast, and you get this shortwave trough that moves on through here for Wednesday evening. So this is our severe weather threat. It actually looks very much like, if we go back and look at the past severe weather threats of the last 6 weeks or so, I've noticed that when the NAM has shown this idea very, very well, unlike the other models. And when I'm looking at the 10,000 foot level, roughly 10,000 feet, the 700 millibar level, and this seems to have worked very well as a forecast indicator with regards to severe weather. Now on Thursday, just to show you the difference, there's another short wave. Let's run this again. So here's this short wave for Wednesday, and here's one for Thursday. But Thursday's is not quite as well defined. You don't really see a lot those big, those brown and red circles, those patches streaked down from the Hudson Valley down into Virginia. It's a much tamer look to it. So I think while there could be certainly some showers or thunderstorms Thursday evening with the next front, that is probably going to be more scattered in nature, and I don't think we're going to see anything severe coming out of that. And of course, after that, we get into this northwest flow that's going to be with us right into the weekend. Now, the NAM doesn't take us far enough out, but look at these dew points. By the time we get, let's roll back. So we get our 70 dew points here for tomorrow, and it's pretty obvious that you've got 70-degree dew points all the way up into parts of Massachusetts and through southern New England. So you've got a very ripe atmosphere. Now, on Thursday, The dew points actually come down a little bit late in the afternoon. So you got, instead of dew points up in the low 70s, your dew points are in the 60s. You get this second front to push through. The winds go around. You look closely, you can see the wind barbs going from southwest to west, roughly at about 11 p.m. or midnight. And then here come the low dew points during the day Friday, with dew points dropping into the 50s all the way down into not quite to southern Virginia, but almost to Richmond. You get these dew points into the 50s. And then we'll move it into Saturday morning when you, as far as this goes, which is 2 a.m. Saturday. Look how delightfully dry this air is from Virginia all the way up through New England, with dew points in the low 50s and even dew points down in the upper 40s. So this is going to be very much a welcomed air mass that's going to be with us for a couple of days. So I'm going to back up, and we'll take a look at various models with regards to tomorrow evening. So here's your GFS model. Now, I think you could probably see some renegade storms that develop ahead of the main line, and that'll happen early in the afternoon. It looks like the model wants to generate them up more in southeastern New England. And then you have the GFS actually showing a fairly, semi-impressive looking area of showers and storms rolling through during the early evening hours on Wednesday. And then here's your second front, which the GFS doesn't really produce very much. And you know what? It's very possible that this second front could come through dry. And then after that, it looks nice and dry. I'm sorry, we're looking at the NAM. I take it back. We're looking at the NAM. The NAM is impressive. I really need to eat earlier so that I can get my head together with doing the live stream. Apologize for being a little bit sloppy tonight, but this is the NAM. NAM showing this, rather impressive surface with these thunderstorms. Not showing very much for late Thursday, but I'm going to put it in the forecast. And then we've got nice dry weather for Friday and into Saturday. Now let me switch to the GFS. So I think I wanted to show you those GFS dew points. But even the GFS actually has an impressive looking area of storms tomorrow evening at 8 p.m., although it has the heaviest activity south rather than further north. And I think one of the things I've been emphasizing with these severe weather risk days is to not focus on what the models are doing specifically, but just focus on the area of risk and make the assumption that somebody in there is going to get clobbered, and if you're in that area, you have to pay attention. Now, Thursday, the next front comes through. GFS has now suddenly gone dry with it. My initial impression of this earlier this week was that this was going to be a dry front, but I'm going to leave in the chance that there could be an odd shower or storm. And then here comes the dry air for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Just looking good here. We can take a look at what this model's dew point profile is. And there we go. So by Friday morning, into Friday afternoon, you're starting to see the dew points really drop down. Probably the NAM bringing them down a bit faster than the GFS, but ultimately you get those 50 dew points down to the North Carolina state line. Saturday, again, a very delightful day. Temperatures probably in the upper 70s to a low 80s for a lot of areas from northeast Virginia to southern New England. And I think even Sunday, even though the GFS shows dew points climbing back up into the low 60s, a lot of times with these dry air masses, the models tend to kind of rush it out. So I'm thinking that Sunday we're going to hold on, and then a quick trip back to some humid air for Monday and Tuesday of next week, back to dew points in the 70s for Tuesday into Wednesday. Then here comes another front, and of course, depending on the model run, apparently on this one, not bringing down as much of a shot of cooler air later next week as some prior runs have done. But here we are for the weekend, of course. You've got this high in Ohio moving eastward, so you got this nice dry air. Then it moves out, little bubble high there in southeastern Canada on Monday, but you do see a return to humidity. Then another front passes here along about Wednesday, but it doesn't really look like it has much of a push behind it. So the models may be backing off. It's waiting for another wave to develop here later in next week, and maybe after that, it brings down some drier air. But it seems like this late afternoon run is having some issues with regards to bringing down another surge of dry air. I'm not quite sure why, but probably if it doesn't have as amplified a look in the upper air, that would explain it. But here's the jet stream as we take a look. Going back to Sunday, of course, you've got this amplifying jet stream here in the eastern part of the United States. It lifts out. The next short wave actually drops down early next week in New England, and then the flow flattens a bit. The southern edge of the westerlies down in across southern Missouri to southern Virginia, so basically right along 35 degrees north. So it seems like it has a bit of a flatter look to it on the late afternoon run. And then here comes another short wave, another vortex dropping down into southeastern Canada. We're now at day 10 and 11 here in the longer term. And here we go again, where this model wants to drop the trough into the west late in the period, but it didn't do that on the prior run. So I call that into question. I think we'll just go with the idea, folks, that it's more of the same weather pattern that we've been in until proven otherwise. We're just going to stick with the same idea. All right, the tropics. It's absolutely quiet in the tropical Atlantic. There is very little going on. We've got weak tropical waves, a couple of upper troughs, a few upper lows running around, but there is really nothing here that's even remotely suggests that we're going to see any kind of tropical storm development anytime soon. Two issues. You've got wind shear issues still going on across the tropical Atlantic to some degree, although models are forecasting that to relax late in the week. And you still have this east-west high, this narrow east-west high across the Atlantic with a fair amount of dry air from Africa to just not quite to the southeast coast, because you do have a frontal boundary there, but say to about Bermuda. So it's as long as you have that there. And by the way, it extends up. It's not just the low level high, but we're talking high pressure all the way up in the atmosphere. So you've got dry air going on through levels clearly up to about 18,000 feet in some places. It's going to be really, really tough. Also, the fact that the ridge is on the flat side is not something that you normally would find conducive for development. Even if something were to form in the tropical Atlantic, if you have an east-west ridge like that, assuming it's strong enough, you'll probably have something that'll just keep on moving to the west. But these waves are really having trouble holding together or even forming any kind of convection at the moment. If you look at the area that's northeast of the Leeward Islands, you're seeing how all those clouds are just kind of getting blown off in all directions. You have a system moving into the central Caribbean. Same issue going on there. The clouds in the southwest Caribbean, some of them are blowing from southwest to northeast. The other lower clouds are moving from east to west. So it's just the upper air and the upper air, the mid-levels and the low levels are just a mess. And I just don't see how you're going to get anything to come out of this anytime soon. So you tropical storm and hurricane lovers, I guess, are going to have to be patient. And usually when I say that, I mean from the meteorological fascination that many folks have with them. That's different from saying that you actually love tropical storms and hurricanes. Of course, while things are not active, that is good news for the areas in the Gulf of Mexico and, of course, across the Atlantic basin that get impacted by severe tropical storms, particularly ones that develop into categories three and up. So let's while it stays calm, that's a good thing. All right, WPC's rainfall forecast in the east, front end loaded with what's going on with this weather front for Wednesday, and then again for late Thursday, although it's mostly for the one for tomorrow, producing some 1 to 2 inch amounts in that stripe that runs from North Carolina all the way up into New England, getting some slightly heavier amounts up in Maine, which is a good thing because apparently it is somewhat dry there. Florida's still getting several inches of rain, and also along the Gulf Coast. You still got that big bullseye sitting in Missouri and eastern Kansas and northern Arkansas with downpours and thunderstorms with some 5-inch plus amounts. that run up the plains and back up through the northern Rockies. Some action down in the southwest, New Mexico, down into parts of Arizona, and California remains on the dry side. So, that pretty much wraps it up for tonight, folks. There's weather-wise. We just head over to the chat board and join you. Lisa Nieves, thank you so much for hitting Super Chat tonight. I really appreciate it greatly. Thank you very much. And any of my Facebook supporters, I gave you a heads up that we got the live stream going, so I hope you're on board tonight as well, and a big hello to you folks. We've got David Schwartz, lots of shear. I wonder if it's left over from the weak El Nino. Sometimes the atmosphere takes a while to snap back. That's quite true, David, and I agree with you. It seems as if the very weak state of the El Nino is we've seen the Pacific storms really having a tough time getting going, and a lot of shear out in the Pacific. And we've gotten used to years where the Pacific just kind of revs up, even in non-El Nino years. So it's a little strange that here we are into the month of August, and we're actually only up to the G storm. I think if you look back over the last 5 or 6 years, you'll find that we've gone pretty deep into the alphabet by the time we get through the first week of August. But to me, it feels quiet on both sides. The Atlantic is very quiet, Chuck Cardello. For early August, it still takes some time to get things going. And I think back to a couple of years ago when we had the season, was it Franklin and then the G storm? If that was the season with Irma and Jose and Maria, that took a little while to get going too during the month of August. So what'll probably happen is what happens a lot of times, which is you'll have this long stretch of quiet, and then all of a sudden, kaboom, you'll have 2 or 3 storms up at the same time within a matter of days. Wolf and Oz, it's not really that baffling that it's quiet on the Atlantic side. This happens from time to time. You can go back, you'll find some years where you get, we've already had 2 named storms. You'll find years where the A storm hasn't even appeared until the middle part of the month of August. So everybody just is, it's a question, I guess, if you're looking for all this stuff to happen. It's a question of patience. But on the other hand, you're kind of hoping that it doesn't happen because of the impact that these storms have on people's lives for these landfalling storms. Lewis Heck Jr. in Bethesda, Maryland, huge repeated cloud-to-ground lightning and virtually no lag between strike and thunder. Winds about 20 to 30 knots. These storms today, were pretty impressive looking on the radars. I did happen to notice that there was a lot of lightning strikes with some of them. Heavy rain seems to be the biggest issue. And Wolf and Oz, you ready for fall? I'm in upstate New York, a guy who's used to brutal winters, the humidity being down here almost 18 years, and you're still not a fan. You know what? The humidity is awful. You get to these uncomfortable days are so difficult sometimes. I think as you get older, it gets even tougher. I know the last year, considering how humid it was in the month of September, and into the very first part of October, with those dew points as high as they were, so late into summer and fall, I found it, and it was day after day. I found it so difficult to handle. Looking for some rain and a possible thunderstorm in Islip. Yeah, you know what, Lisa? We could use some rain out our way. It's dried up in the last week. We've had quite a bit of nice weather. And by the way, let me just point out that for a lot of us in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, and you might want to even expand that a bit further, the weekends this summer have actually been pretty good. Some of them have not been 100%, where we've had a couple of weekends where we've had to deal with some odd pop-ups here and there. But for the vast majority of that area, the weekends have been very good this summer. And we've only got 4 summer weekends left. This weekend, and then the next 2 after that. The 4th in that stretch is the Labor Day holiday weekend. So, we're coming into sort of the home stretch, and before you know it, folks, the kids will be going back to school. The college kids will be going back in a couple of weeks, and everybody else will be going back going into September. It's coming. It's getting here quick. Okay, Johnny was right. 1992. So I got to find the other end of that thread to make the connection there. Timothy Veltman. Could Wisconsin see enhanced risk added for tomorrow? It's been lately where these things have been getting beefed up. These short waves that are coming down in the northern stream, Trish and Lou, have been stronger than advertised. Wouldn't be a shocker if they did. Don't worry, Chris. We're not going to get you 10 inches of water in your house this time around. I promise. Okay? Nothing's going on anyhow. Significant thunderstorm activity for future meteorologist Ryan Ford in Seaside Park, New Jersey. Look, Ryan, you know as well as I do, there's going to be some pop-ups around. There might even be some developments along the sea breeze front just inland of the coast. Tomorrow, late morning to early afternoon, so what I call renegade cells might form. But the main line will probably come through during the evening hours. I think you're certainly at risk. You're in that risk area, so the rule with dealing with thunderstorms in these situations is you look at where the risk area is and then follow the radar. Just assume that you're going to get a thunderstorm if you're in that risk area. There will be places that will not see anything. Lewis Hecht, where are you at the moment? Are you getting 60 knots of torrential rain? I'm running through the chat backwards, so let's see. Iron Mind says, contact the Department of Congress in Washington, D.C. by letter asking them to please restore New York City 162.55 megahertz. The weather radio is still not working, Iron Mind. You know what? I'll shoot a message over to my buddy, one of my buddies who's a forecaster there, to see what's going on with that. Chances are there's a part that needs to be ordered, that has to be requisitioned, that has to be signed off on, and if there's some kind of budget issue, it could take quite a while for that part to get here. All right, running backwards again. Chris Alley, the quiet Atlantic could be the calm before the storm, but then again, it might also be that this could be a subpar year. It doesn't necessarily mean. Look, we're going to see a burst of activity at some point. You know, all this heat in the atmosphere that collects in the summer months has to be redistributed. That's the function of a hurricane, really, to redistribute the excess heat that builds up in the southern latitudes and taking that heat and redistributing it up to the north. It serves a function. So you're going to see that. You're going to see that happen. We're just going to have to figure out when and where, and we're going to have to wait for the weather pattern to kind of correct itself. One of the things I did mention yesterday when we were looking at the upper air, that it does look like the wind shear across the tropical Atlantic is going to relax late this week and into this weekend, but will there be anything for it to work on? Apparently there might not be. Where do the Birchwood Lakes, and we live in the community, and there's 5 lake shear shores, and it's being plopped down in a forest. We came from Lake Hopatcong and had to move. It's perfect. Where do the Patricia, it looks like maybe you jumbled a couple of words. I'm trying to figure it out. I thought, by the way, at Lake Hopatcong, one of the lakes up in northwest Jersey was having a big algae problem this year. I don't know if it was that particular lake or one of the nearby lakes. Will the rain delay for the Yankees and Baltimore game continue? Well, real fast, I'm going to look at their radar because that storm was sitting right over Baltimore. It looks like it's weakening at the moment. Yeah, I mean, the cell that's over Baltimore is actually weakening, but I just want to show you. You can see it up here. I'll bring it up full screen. Oh, come on. There you go. So take a look at this, and you'll see that the cell that's over Baltimore just kind of weakens. But now you've got this other cell that's north of Washington, D.C. that's moving east-northeast. So that looks like it may want to come in right behind it, assuming it holds together. There's 2 fairly strong thunderstorm cells that are obvious on the radar loop there, northwest of Washington D.C., and they're moving east-northeast. So the first one is dying out, but there could be something replacing it shortly. And then once we get past sunset, my guess is that much of that is going to wind up falling apart. All right, so oh my God, Ghost in a nutshell, 4.23 inches of rain in 60 minutes in Baltimore County. You know what? These storms, even up here earlier where they had a flash flood warning up, one of my buddies said that he got 2 inches of rain in about 15 minutes from one of the thunderstorms that he experienced during this afternoon. So yeah, these storms are actually producing some pretty hefty rains in some places in very, very short bursts. By the way, we do have a new flash flood warning just for my particular area, noting a flash flood warning for north central Orange County until about 9 o'clock. That just went up about 6 minutes ago at 7:32 p.m. Eastern Time. By the way, I didn't mention it before because we really didn't have a whole lot to look at radar-wise, but when it comes to the radar and satellite data for sure, it's all dated stuff, folks. So if you're watching this on a replay, we're coming up on 7:40 Eastern Time. So please go to weather.gov and go to your local National Weather Service forecast office page and get the latest weather information. And that's particularly important when it comes to severe weather. Well, I thought it was Ghost in a Nutshell. Did I misread it? Ghost in the Nutshell. Oh, Ghost in the Shell. I added the nut part. Okay. Sorry about that. Read it too quickly. All right. You know what? Let's leave it there and end it at this point. Thanks very much, as always, for being here tonight. Just a couple of things with regards to the severe weather coverage. Of course, tomorrow morning I will have my morning video, Weather in 5. I'll have it up there probably before 9 o'clock. I actually got up at 4 a.m. this morning because I couldn't sleep. So I had everything done by 7 this morning. But anyway, if there will be a Weather in 5 tomorrow morning, so we'll cover the severe weather threat, and we'll take a look at what's going on and what's setting up for later in the day. And there'll be, of course, additional coverage for Patreon members on my Patreon platform. The link is up there for those of you who are interested. It's also on the descriptor to this live stream or the descriptor to this video, where you can sign up for just $2 a month. We do extra stuff just for Patreon members, and when we're going to be getting into this storm coverage more and more going forward, I'm going to be doing most of it on the Patreon platform and less so on the website and on Facebook and on Twitter. So just bear that in mind. Also, quick, easy way to support my channel is through Amazon. If you shop on Amazon and you use the Joe Stradamus link, as I call it, you just search and shop for your stuff. You don't have to buy what's on the list there, but just use the search bar and shop, and you get your stuff. And Amazon, out of their pocket, throws me a bit of coin so I can get a couple of cigars. We're a participant in the Amazon Services LLC Associates Program, which is an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for us to earn fees by linking to Amazon.com and its affiliated sites, because I have to do the disclaimer. And one more thing, because I have a freebie, and that is for those of you who want, well, you want me around, okay? You want me around, and you want me around on your mobile device, so you can download my free weather app. And here it is, the link to that for all mobile devices. We have an update that we've pushed through for Android users. So now the local forecast will default to your own location. Also, if you're on Long Island, there's a new Long Island tab on there where I write one of my posts when I can. I try to do it every day. It's not always easy, but specifically Long Island focus. So be sure to take a look at that. And if you haven't updated the app, you may have to uninstall it on your phone and then just re-download it. But it should update. I've noticed that it's been kind of going slowly but surely because maybe not everybody's got the app turned on. This is a quiet time of year. There's no real storminess going on outside of just these severe weather threats. But there's the link for it up there on the chat, so do take advantage. And again, that's absolutely free for everybody. All right, so Weather in 5 tomorrow morning, look for that. Live stream tomorrow evening. If there's severe weather going on, let's say it'll be at the same time, 7, shortly after 7 o'clock. But we do have severe weather happening. I may have to push the live stream back a little later on in the evening. So maybe it'll be after 8 o'clock when things calm down. All right, folks, thanks again. Good night, everybody.